The move looks simple, technical, almost bureaucratic, but it says a lot more about where the Toronto Blue Jays are right now than any optimistic spring training speech. Because when you send a 25-year-old catcher, protected on the 40-man roster, down to AAA, the message isn't just about depth. It's about hierarchy. It's about trust. And most of all, it's about timing. Brandon Valenzuela wasn't just another name cut from a long list of spring adjustments. He arrived via trade at the 2025 deadline, came over from the Padres, involved with Wagner. This wasn't random. It was a conscious front office decision. And then you protect him on the 40-man right after the season. That is not a small detail. Teams don't burn a 40-man spot for nothing, especially with the Rule 5 draft around the corner. And even so, 1 week before opening day, he's in Buffalo. Now hold on a second, because this is where it gets uncomfortable. His spring performance was good, and .848 OPS in 11 games. 1 home run, solid contact, nothing spectacular, but far from something that justifies an obvious cut. So the question comes up almost automatically. If it wasn't performance, then what was it? Because decisions like this are rarely about March numbers. They're about structure. They're about who already has a seat at the table. And catcher might be the most rigid position on a roster. You don't rotate catchers like you rotate outfielders. You don't improvise at catcher. You either trust or you don't play him. And the Blue Jays clearly still don't trust him at the MLB level. And that opens up an interesting read. Valenzuela was protected. He was tested. He responded well in a small sample. And still, he didn't push hard enough to force a difficult decision. And that says more about who's ahead of him than about him. Now let's zoom out a bit, because it wasn't just him. Robert Brooks, Rafael Antigua, Riley Terada, Carlos Mendoza, Josh Rivera, all reassigned. And here it matters to separate things, because not every cut carries the same weight. Those names weren't on the 40-man roster. Some came in on minor league deals, spring invites. Others are depth pieces who've been orbiting AAA for a while, like Terada, 12 home runs in 116 games in 2025. Solid production, but not disruptive. These moves are expected, almost automatic. Spring training exists for exactly this filtering volume. But Valenzuela's case doesn't fall into that category. And here's the detail that shifts everything. Buffalo, AAA isn't a final demotion. It's a waiting room. And sometimes it's a laboratory. Now think about it. You got a young catcher, switch hitter, already in your system, protected. You've seen enough not to lose him in the Rule 5, but you haven't seen enough to trust him on opening day. What's the logical move? Let him play every day, not sit on an MLB bench. Because this is what people don't talk about. Being the third catcher on the big league roster can slow development more than help it. Limited playing time, fewer reps, stall growth. While in AAA he plays, makes mistakes, adjusts, improves. But what if this isn't about development? What if it's about ceiling evaluation? Because there's a massive difference between a useful player and a player who changes roster structure. Maybe the Blue Jays have already decided internally that Valenzuela is closer to the first than the second, and that changes urgency completely. Now comes the human side, the part that always matters more than it seems. You arrive in a new organization. You get protected. You have a solid spring. And still, you don't break through. That affects you, not publicly, not in interviews, but it does. And it also affects how the fan base sees things. Because the attentive fan, the one tracking the 40-man, the farm, the transactions, notices a pattern. The Blue Jays are being conservative, maybe even too conservative. And here's where it gets tricky. This team isn't rebuilding, but it's not operating from luxury either. It's stuck in that dangerous middle ground, where every small decision compounds. You can't miss on talent evaluation. You can't delay development. And at the same time, you can't rush someone up too early. It's a fine balance. And front offices don't always get the timing right. Now stop for a second, because there's a detail here that changes everything. The fact that Valenzuela was protected means another team could have taken him in the Rule 5, which means the league sees value in him, even if it's as a bet, even if it's as a backup with upside. So when the Blue Jays keep him in AAA, it's not because he has no value. It's because internally, he still doesn't beat the current options. And that raises another uncomfortable question. Are the current options really that solid? Because if they are, Great. Depth solved. But if they're not, you might be delaying a solution that's already inside your system. And that happens way more often than people think in MLB. Players who are ready, waiting for an opportunity that never comes at the right time, until when it finally comes, it's too late, or they're used as trade pieces, or they lose value. Now, let's look quickly at the rest of the list, but honestly, La Antigua and Mendoza minor league deals, invitations. They did their job. They competed. They didn't win a spot. Normal. Brooks and Rivera acquired in 2024. Still in evaluation phase. No immediate pressure. Terada, solid production, but no breakout. Classic AAA depth profile. Nothing here breaks the script. The only outlier is still Valenzuela. And that leads to a simple, almost raw summary. The Blue Jays gain short-term stability. They keep structure. They avoid rush decisions. But they risk underusing an asset they already invested in. It's not a mistake, but it's not a clear win either. It's that gray area where time will decide. Looking ahead, an injury, a bad stretch, a roster adjustment. Any of that can change his status in days, because catcher is a position of wear, and depth is never excess. So the story isn't over. In fact, it hasn't really started yet. The real question is, when the opportunity shows up, will the Blue Jays be ready to trust him? Or will they hesitate again? Because sometimes the problem isn't who gets called up, it's who gets called up too late. And that usually costs more than it seems. If you're paying attention, you already see what's at stake here. If not, start now. Because these quiet decisions are the ones that shape the season later. So let me ask you, would you call Valenzuela up now? Or keep him in Buffalo longer?